Kia ora tātou. Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Dunedin City Council. Welcome to councillors, to staff, to the media and to the public. We begin with public forum, and our first submitted to public forum is Mr. Wegery. Welcome, Lyndon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you on a very serious matter that has been exercising my mind as a Dunedin resident and ratepayer for some time. It is simply this: the urgent need to address the challenges that Mother Nature is throwing at us in the southern part of the city, and the apparent lack of willingness and coordination by council staff to address those issues in a way that restores confidence in affected residents. On Monday, August the 17th, in reply to a letter expressing concern that South Dunedin lacks a serious drainage system, the ODT published a reply by a senior manager who stated, and I quote, "The DCC has undertaken a number of projects and investigations relating to drainage of both wastewater and stormwater in South Dunedin and continues to look at opportunities for improvement." Hardly words of assurance for the besieged property owners in South Dunedin, you would agree. To be specific, Wednesday 3 June 2015 was a wake-up call for all of us. A graphic reminder that when an extreme weather event as a 1 to 25 to 50 year flood hit the city, vulnerable areas were quickly inundated and extreme water and sewage damage inflicted on many properties. The flooding showed up serious deficiencies in our ability to manage the huge wall of water that descended from the hills onto the flat. Aged stormwater pipes that are long overdue to be replaced, mud tanks that had not been cleaned and maintained in months, and pumping stations like Portobello Road that failed to function for unknown reasons. Overall, a stormwater system design capacity that urgently needs upgrading. The understanding that these type of weather events could happen more frequently has been highlighted in major reports presented to Council, and I refer to the Blair-Fitzharriet report of 2010 and the Becker report of 2014. Both reports outline the challenge facing us all, and both make sound recommendations to address the serious issues. But in the case of Becker, where a $75 million network of pumps and wells is recommended, are sadly not covered in the 30-year infrastructure strategy as part of the current LTP. To be fair, our strategy does state Harbourside in South City has a dense population of 10,000 residents with an asset value of $4.3 billion, and the main threat is from rising groundwater as levels are forced up by rising sea levels. Furthermore, it states the council's stormwater system is designed to accommodate 1 to 10 year rainfall intensity events. As climate change kicks in, these events will increase in frequency in the future. I am encouraged that through the LTP process, Council resolved to favour option 2, where future renewals over the next 10 years are stepped up and funded by rates rather than debt. But what worries me, councillors, is when you look at the LTP, and particularly the forecast financial statements for the next 10 years, there is little capital expenditure put in the plan to address these potential flooding issues. All I could find is $4 million planned for the Surrey Street Stormwater Diversion Scheme for 2015 to 2017, despite a promise from council staff at the time to bring forth other planned improvements to ease pressure on South Dunedin pipes. Furthermore, after the disaster of 3 June, I waited patiently for Council to receive a formal report on how its infrastructure performed that day and what major improvements needed to be accelerated and further funds diverted to the infrastructure strategy as part of the LTP process. A search of agenda and minutes for subsequent committee and council meetings showed nothing, and all we saw was funding set aside for other projects that in the minds of South Dunedin residents were a much, much lower priority. Apart from a curious response from council talking about a managed retreat and time to start looking at the end game, there has been nothing apart from an unsubstantiated claim that conversations had begun with the South Dunedin community. Just over 3 weeks ago at the Community and Environment Committee, my colleague from Victoria Road, Bill Brown, presented another wake-up call to councillors in the form of serious sand dune erosion at Sinclair Beach. His concern was that despite the official policy of a holding pattern for 10 years in terms of the Tonkin report, the toe of the dune face has moved back markedly, and his famous red line showed that Mother Nature won't wait that long. Incidentally, since those famous red lines that he talked about, he now tells me that the red line has eroded a further 3.4 metres since 6th of August when he made those measurements. Bill made the point, you recall, at the time, that it was now time to seriously consider funding was adequately made available to protect the coastline. It was time to seriously consider the best recommendation of the Tonkin report, a buried backstop wall, and ensure adequate funding was made available. So what do we have in the LTP by way of future capital expenditure funding? Nothing that I can see between pages 151 and 171. Yet in answer to a question by one councillor, you will recall that Bill emphatically told us there was enough sand dune depth to survive the spring tides the rest of this year. But if the erosion retreat continues at the present rate, he is now telling me, as recently as yesterday, we have 12 to 18 months left before a serious breach may occur. Other locals are worried about the state of the Sinclair sea wall, another council holding action, despite the Opus report, with 225,000 allocated on page 152 to meet ongoing monitoring and maintenance costs of the seawall and protective rock formation. On a positive note, the rock wall or revetment at the saltwater pool works well, and many locals, including myself, wonder why council won't extend this success story further along the seawall and into Middle Beach, known as Area 2 in the Tonkin report. As one councillor said to me recently, Lyndon, if it costs $10 million to do this, it's ratepayer funds well spent, if only to protect the extra sand sausages that are envisaged for Middle Beach. One way or the other, councillors, I believe as a ratepayer and resident, we had to do something as a city. And it seems to me that council had 3 excellent reports just sitting there and covering the south of the city that we believe, many of us believe, are well past the holding action stage. All it takes is coordinated leadership amongst council managers to bring a wider perspective to this problem. Perhaps our infrastructure and networks general manager, Ruth Stokes, is a person to undertake this role, as everyone is impressed with a decisive way she has sorted out the cycle mess. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Lyndon. Questions, councillors? There are no questions. Thank you, Lyndon.